Let's begin where modern arguments usually end, with the assumption that good intentions are enough. Diversity, inclusion, say the words slowly. Hear how settled they sound, how marginal, how finished. They arrive with laminated certainty, a consultant confidence, a promise to fix this history with policy, design. They also arrive with consequences. Critics point out, usually at first, then more loudly, that when institutions recognize power and identity, they often replace old hierarchies with new ones. Merit becomes harder to name. Dissent becomes more risky. Inclusion becomes conditional. None of this requires cruelty. It requires only procedure. Now, England, 1290, order is issued. No shouting crowds, no smashed windows, just ink, seals, and deadlines. Every Jew in the kingdom at the time is to leave. Homes are surrendered. Debts are absorbed by the crown. Families reduce their lives to what can be carried out to the coast. By All Saints' Day, England will be empty of a community that has lived for 2 centuries. This is not medieval outburst. It is administration which reflects on today, administration which, in fact, cannot be subdued. It's the English today. We find this is all happening again. Edward I did not expel the Jews, but because he is unusually vicious. He expels them because it is useful. Jewish communities are economically, necessarily, politically isolated and socially resented. They are taxed directly by the crown, blamed by debtors, condemned by preachers, and protected only so long as proclamation pays. Edward needs money for war. Parliament wants relief. A solution presents itself. Jews are then removed, and machinery of government continues smoothly. Power, as it's most dangerous, it's calm at most dangerous. In the 21st century, corporations announce DEI initiatives with similar calm. Categories are drawn, trainings mandated, metrics promised. People are sorted, not expelled, but redefined. Language is moral. The process is bureaucratic. The outcome, critics argue, is often a resentment more than cohesion. History will recognize this immediately. History will recognize this, and identity becomes administrative, and administration detects who belongs comfortably and who does not. Edward I is remembered as great lawgiver, and rightly so. He confirms charters, strengthens parliament, and builds systems that outlast him. But he also understands something modern governments rediscover constantly. Law is not merely a restraint on power, it is a tool for organizing it. The organization always involves boundaries. Edward's order is severe but effective. Wales is subdued with castles he instigated and clerks. Scotland is pressured with statutes and forces. Trade is regulated. Taxation is formalized. Consent is negotiated where necessary and imposed where possible. This government, as architecture, it looks reassuring when it works, yet it looks brutal when you are removed by it. After more than 20 years, the United States withdraws from Iraq. The language is careful. The transition, sovereignty, and responsibility of withdrawal is not triumph. It is administration we are going through. Authority stretched too far for too long without durable consent eventually collapses under its own cost. Medieval kings learn this occupying hostile lands. Modern states relearn it with aircraft and press conferences. Henry III lacked this clarity. Devout, artistic incentives. Henry preferred symbols to systems. He postponed decisions until they detonated. Debts mounted, nobles intervened, and Simon de Montfort's rebellion is remembered as radical, but it is also managerial. Governance failed, as does today, but the oversight was imposed because drift had its consequences. Greenland becomes a topic of open geopolitical interest, strategic location, minerals, shipping lanes, and powerful speaks of acquisition in transactional language. European leaders object. Greenland's leadership states plenty, but it prefers alignment to purchase. Similar states block maneuvers. Everyone invokes sovereignty while testing how flexible it is. This medieval politics with modern accents. Kings once spoke of inheritance. Presidents speak of assets. The grammar changes, but the edict does not. King John discovers the hard way that authority without restraint corrodes itself. He taxes unpredictably. He interferes in justice. He humiliates himself before the church. He loses territory. His barons respond not with ideas, but with pressure. The Magna Carta is signed not as vision, but as receipt. Power is itemized. Procedure is imposed. But notice what the Magna Carta does not do. It does not imagine universal inclusion, DEI, or any of the other things like the HMR, like the Human Rights Commission. It limits royal authority in one direction while leaving it absolute in others. The same political order that restrains kings from elites can erase minorities entirely. In the States, immigration enforcement expands and protests erupt. Federal agents arrive. Local resistance forms, like the ICE recently. Law becomes visible. Physical. It's physical. It's undeniable. Those who trusted institutions now block them. The argument is no longer abstract. It's about bodies belonging legitimately. Medieval knew this tension well. Forest law was legal. It was also despised. Order was imposed above really feels natural below. Identity charms everything. In medieval Europe, sermons farmed certain groups as incompatible with moral body. In modern societies, ideological language sometimes performs the same function, assigning virtue and guilt by category. This discouraging disagreement by moral shorthand. The critics of DEI warn that when disagreement itself is treated as harm, institutions stop correlating errors and start enforcing narratives. This parallel is uncomfortable. Diversity itself is not the danger. History has always been diverse. The danger lies in moral certainty combined with bureaucratic power. What systems decide in advance is who is correct and who is suspect, and who must be managed. Inclusion does not vanish. It becomes procedural, as it should be in a conservative environment. Listen carefully, and the centuries overlap. Community removed because it is convenient. A charter signed because pressure demands it. A war abandoned because it no longer pays. Territory resisting acquisition. A policy rolled out with certainty and met with resentment. Different centuries, the same mechanics. And system, medieval or modern, that organizes society primarily by identity rather than shared standards, will eventually harden into inclusion. The DEI, when treated as moral architecture rather than practical reform, risks reproducing the very dynamics it claims to oppose: hierarchy, silence, resentment, and removal from conversation. History does not judge intentions, it records outcomes. A long memory of authority shows us this power, and it behaves predictably when unexamined. It sorts, it categorizes with necessary bureaucracy. Although bureaucracy itself is objectionable, we hate it, but it is necessary through governmental policy and procedure, through conservatism and the understanding that we must all adhere to the direct rule. The question is whether we will notice in time.
Why not? Same ends, same means, same victims. What's the difference? Maybe they've chosen the wrong man for the job.
Give us a good clicking.
Shakanaka.